At 18, I got pregnant right before the college entrance exams. Zhou made solemn promises that he would take care of me for the rest of his life. I dropped out of school, moved into his family's home, and spent my days preparing for the baby and then raising our child. All my relatives said I was lucky, becoming a wealthy young wife at such a tender age. At 22, the age when we could have legally married, Zhou returned from studying abroad. He had a new girlfriend and wanted an amicable breakup. I was too young back then, and my thinking was shallow. Now I must consider the future of my family. I cannot marry a woman who doesn't even have a high school diploma. Since it wasn't a legal marriage, I didn't even have the right to make a fuss. He generously compensated me with $200,000 for my lost youth and then showed me the door. But back then, if I had taken the college entrance exam and performed normally, the scholarship I could have received would have been more than that amount. I had a winning hand in life, but I played it all wrong. I was filled with regret, sank into depression, and jumped from a building. When I opened my eyes again, I was back in my final year of high school. This time, I had only one goal: to bury myself in my studies. As Zhou's heavy body came crashing down, my first instinct was to shove him away with all my strength. Seeing his noticeably younger face and that high school crew cut, I was utterly bewildered. It finally dawned on me. Didn't I jump off a building? Could it be I'd been reborn? My gaze swept over the jacket tossed haphazardly on the floor and the birthday cake beside it. And one thing became crystal clear to me: it was my 18th birthday. It was also the day I made the biggest mistake of my life. My boyfriend, Zhou, couldn't control his passion for me, and I didn't refuse. I would later get pregnant unexpectedly, be persuaded to drop out of school, and marry Zhou, who I had just pushed aside, looked bewildered as he leaned in. What's wrong, baby? Are you scared? I'll be gentle. I didn't want to say another word to him. I turned over, got up, and put my clothes on. Zhou, we're through. What did you say? Zhou's face was a picture of shock. I had no intention of repeating myself. Once dressed, I walked straight out. Zhou didn't even have time to put on a shirt. He rushed to stop me, bare-chested, and demanded why. From his perspective, we had always gotten along perfectly, with a stable relationship. We hadn't even had a single argument, so he genuinely couldn't understand why I would break up with him so abruptly. There is no why. We're still students. We shouldn't be dating in the first place. I pushed his hand away and walked off without a backward glance. The temperature at the end of February was still bitterly low, yet I was willing to stand there in the biting wind, letting the chill seep into my bones. This cold brought me an immense sense of solidity. It made me feel, with absolute certainty, that everything before me was real, not some hollow illusion. Heaven has shown me mercy. I've truly been reborn. The phone in my pocket kept buzzing, along with Zhou's message asking for an update. There was also a notification from the class group chat. Today is Sunday. The homeroom teacher reminded us not to forget to return to school on time. I didn't reply to Zhou's message. I only sent a received in the group chat. I rushed back to school, following the route etched in my memory. Standing at the school gates, tears began to fall uncontrollably. Returning to school, I could go back to my studies. The high school I currently attend is a private institution called Xingyu High School, with an annual tuition of nearly $200,000. It's considered an elite, high-end school. A school like this was never meant to be in my story, because my family circumstances are far from well off. I lost my father when I was very young, and my mother raised me all by herself, working tirelessly. Just making ends meet was a struggle for her. There was no way she could afford such exorbitant tuition fees. In my first and second years of high school, I attended a public school where my academic performance was exceptionally outstanding. It wasn't until the end of my sophomore year that the principal of Xingyu High, in a push to boost their admission rates to top universities like Tsinghua and Peking, aggressively recruited top students from other schools, and I was among them. The terms he offered were excellent. All expenses would be covered. A scholarship of $100,000 would be provided upon enrollment. If you get into Tsinghua or Peking University, there's an additional bonus of 300,000 yuan. When that offer was laid out in front of me, I was instantly and completely sold. Forget even getting in. Just enrolling to study there comes with 100,000 yuan. 100,000 yuan. A school's a school, right? Besides, I've heard the learning environment at Xingyu High is absolutely top-notch. It's like a dream come true. How could I possibly say no? Logically speaking, with such attractive offers to poach students, Xingyu High School should have been able to recruit quite a few promising talents. But after I actually transferred there in my previous life, I discovered I was the only one they managed to recruit. I only found out later, the school's teaching staff and student body were both rather subpar. Xingyu charges a hefty tuition fee every year. The bulk of its spending goes towards maintaining its elite facade, a beautiful campus, a cafeteria rivaling a five-star hotel, luxurious and comfortable dormitories, and a wide array of activities. However, It invests very little in what matters most for a school, its teaching staff and the quality of education. It's a classic case of style over substance. As a result, families who genuinely prioritize their children's education and development, even if they are wealthy, would not send their children here. Therefore, the majority of students here are, in the truest sense, spoiled heirs from affluent families. They are the ones who didn't get into any decent schools during the high school entrance exams, nor were they accepted by the truly top-tier private institutions, unwilling to let them waste their time in subpar schools. Their families send them to Xingyu, an elite school that appears impressive and prestigious on the surface. In my past life, when I learned this truth, I wasn't particularly flustered. I had immense confidence in myself. I believed that even through self-study, I could master it. Yet, I never expected that in the end, I would lose my way here. Evening self-study has begun. The classroom wasn't exactly rowdy, but it wasn't quiet either. But the teacher didn't do much to stop it. Xingyu's educational philosophy professes a focus on well-rounded development, vowing never to constrain students with rigid dogma. It's essentially dressing up neglect as encouragement of independence. If you listen carefully to the conversations around you, you'll find very few people are actually talking about studying. The guys are talking about cars, watches, and sneakers. The girls are discussing handbags, jewelry, and makeup. The conversation was peppered with the names of various expensive luxury brands. These were all things far beyond the reach of ordinary people. No one was overly worried about the college entrance exam. It wouldn't significantly impact their futures. At least, that's what they believed. Back then, in that very atmosphere, I lost my way without even realizing it. I forgot where I came from and started to believe that studying wasn't the only path forward. Now, I tune out all the noise, pick up a book, and just start reading. I am not truly Shin Xuan, the high school senior. This is Shin Xuan, for years in the future. During those 4 years, I spent 1 year pregnant and 3 years raising a child. The one thing I didn't do was study. Even a college student returning to their senior year of high school would be caught off guard, especially for someone like me, who stopped studying long ago. Even though I was a top student in high school, I still have to get reacquainted with the material now. While I was still racking my brain, Zhou Hao approached my desk, holding a test paper and pulling up a chair. He pretended to come over to ask a question. Shin Xuan, I need an explanation. His voice was low, but the tone was unmistakably sharp, as if he was holding his breath. I didn't look at him because my eyes were utterly glued to the book. A second chance at life was too precious, and time was too tight to spare even a shred of energy on hating or seeking revenge against Zhou Hao. The college entrance exam is just 3 months away. This is my one and only shot at changing my fate. Everything else pales in comparison to this. I don't want to deal with Zhou Hao. It's obvious. If I ignore him, he'll just keep pestering me, which would be an even bigger waste of my time. I've already explained, we're students. We shouldn't be dating in the first place. I need to study now, so please leave, I said coldly. Shin Xuan, listen to yourself. Does that even make sense? He laughed in exasperation. If you're so strict about the school rules, why did you agree to be with me in the first place? Just because I agreed before doesn't mean I can't want to end things now, baby. Zhou Hao's tone suddenly softened. Did what happened today scare you? If you're not ready, I can wait until after the college entrance exams. He nuzzled his head against me. Please don't talk about breaking up so lightly. Okay, you know how much I love you. I couldn't help it. A cold laugh escaped me. Zhou Hao really did seem to love me. When I first transferred to Xingyu High School, I was deeply insecure. The gap in our family backgrounds was so vast that I felt, deep down, completely out of place among the other students. I was too afraid to even speak an extra word, burying myself in my studies every single day. Zhou Hao was the first person to reach out to me. He never mocked my plain clothes or cheap accessories. Instead, he patiently helped me integrate into the group, step by step. If anyone made fun of me, he would stand up for me. Under these circumstances, it was only natural that we grew closer. In those tender, fluttering years of youth, he treated me with such sincerity that I naturally developed feelings for him. Later, Zhou Hao confessed his feelings to me. Years of ingrained student discipline made me instinctively reject him. I came up with all sorts of excuses, that puppy love was wrong, that our different family backgrounds meant it would never work out, and so on. He told me not to worry about such trivial matters. He said he wouldn't give up unless I could look him straight in the eye and say I had no feelings for him whatsoever. I simply couldn't bring myself to lie. Before I knew it, I'd agreed to be in a relationship with him. After we started dating, he treated me even better. He spared no expense on me, showering me with gifts. At first, I was uneasy, feeling I couldn't reciprocate equally, so I was reluctant to accept. But Zhou Hao countered by asking if I didn't see him as someone I truly wanted to love and rely on. He said these expenses were a drop in the bucket for him, not worth mentioning. and told me not to give it a second thought. After we gave in to temptation and I ended up unexpectedly pregnant, Zhou showed a sense of responsibility well beyond his years. I was utterly panicked and at a complete loss. He held me and said that even though we weren't of legal age to marry, he would take responsibility for me and for our child. His parents, Mr. and Mrs. Zhou, were also very kind and gentle, showing me great care and concern to punish Zhou for his recklessness and to make amends to me. They teamed up to give him a good beating several times and even made him kneel at home for 3 days. Zhou gritted his teeth and endured it. In the end, covered in wounds, he held me pitifully and said he had already discussed it with his parents. Once we reached the legal age for marriage registration, he would give me a grand, splendid wedding, making me his rightful and proper wife. No one would ever laugh at me again. In my past life, even when Zhou brought his new girlfriend home, I still believed he had simply fallen out of love. I never once doubted the sincerity he showed at 18. It wasn't until I jumped to my death and my soul, bound by resentment, lingered around the Zhou family that I finally heard the truth. So, Zhou had ulterior motives from the very beginning. Our first time wasn't some youthful, impulsive loss of control, and my pregnancy was no accident. It was all premeditated, a scheme in which every member of the Zhou family was complicit. Zhou has a highly respected great-grandfather. He is over 100 years old, a remarkable age. Their greatest wish is to experience the joy of 5 generations living under one roof before they pass away. The elderly person's health has been declining in recent years, and it's uncertain when they might depart. This fixation has only grown stronger, with the Zhou family having a single male heir for several generations. Achieving 5 generations together would mean Zhou must marry and have children early. It's almost laughable. Despite the Zhou family's immense wealth, they lack the kind of grace and sophistication you'd expect from a well-to-do household. In the dramas, their mindset is downright archaic, so archaic, in fact, that they see nothing unusual about high school students getting married and having children. As they put it, wasn't everyone from the older generation married with kids at a young age? In ancient times, people would get married as young as 14 or 15. You could continue your studies after getting married. It wouldn't hold you back. To fulfill Zhou's great-grandfather's wish, the entire Zhou family had long been searching for a suitable marriage partner for him. But what decent family would let their daughter marry and have children at such a young age? They're not even of legal age to marry, so they can't get a marriage certificate. What a huge risk, to be together with no official status or recognition. There were, however, some poor families with a preference for sons who were willing to sell their daughters, but the girls from those families were poorly educated. The Zhous considered them not clever enough, fearing their children would have inferior genes. That's when I happened to transfer to Xingyu School and caught the Zhou family's attention. In their eyes, I come from a modest background, with little social influence or resources. I lost my father in childhood and grew up starved of affection. My mother is passive and indecisive, and I myself am insecure, introverted, and easy to push around. A top student bound for Tsinghua or Peking University, with a brilliant mind, tall with long legs, possessing a dignified and delicate beauty, with excellent genetic traits. She was exactly Zhou's type. She was practically the perfect candidate they had been looking for. The Zhou family knew that if they broached the subject with me directly, I would never agree. Even though my family was poor, I still had a bit of pride and ambition back then. So, he simply had Zhou put on a facade of youthful infatuation, concealing his true intentions for getting close to me underneath. He used gentle, warm-hearted care to open up my heart and used a candid confession to stir my emotions. They used sweet talk and flattery to wear down my will. At my age and with my level of experience back then, I was almost powerless to resist such advances. While I was marveling at having found a fairy tale romance, the other person was scheming how to coax me into bed, planning to tamper with a condom beforehand to get me pregnant, and then figuring out how to accidentally let the news slip afterward. The goal was to shame me into dropping out of school, thereby increasing the odds of their plan's success. They even deliberately plotted to make sure it all happened before the college entrance exams. If I had taken the college entrance exam normally, gotten into a good university, and had a clear path ahead, I wouldn't have been so easy to manipulate. The chances of them convincing me to drop out and have the baby would have plummeted. And that whole story about kneeling before my parents for 3 days and getting beaten by both of them, that was nothing but a carefully orchestrated act of self-sacrifice. He used his unwavering determination to secure my commitment. At the time, I was genuinely moved to tears and decided I would do whatever it took to keep our loved child. But from the very beginning, it was all just a calculated, purposeful deception. At that thought, a sudden surge of rage filled my chest. I couldn't hold back. My hand shot out and landed a sharp slap across Zhou's face. The classroom, which had been buzzing with Noise fell deathly quiet in an instant. Everyone, including the teacher, turned to look at me. Before the teacher could even ask, I stood up and tattled first. Teacher, Zhou Hao is harassing me. I paused for a moment. He said he loves me. With the college entrance exams right around the corner, talking about this kind of romance is clearly just a ploy to distract me compared to many other schools. Xingyu High's campus culture is indeed much more relaxed, but given the national context here, puppy love is still not permitted. At the very least, it's officially forbidden. Besides, I'm a promising student the school invested in to get into top universities, so the teachers tend to cut me some slack. Sure enough, the teacher's face darkened. Zhou Hao, come with me to the office. Zhou Hao shot me a look of utter disbelief, then gritted his teeth and left the classroom under the teacher's orders. The moment the teacher stepped out, the classroom erupted in hushed whispers and gossip. Everyone was speculating about what was going on between me and Zhou Hao. After all, a teenage romance might be kept from the teachers, but it's never a secret from your classmates. Everyone had known for a while that Zhou Hao and I were dating. I paid no mind to those discussions. I just went back to immersing myself in reviewing the key points. Time was really tight. When I got back to the dorm that night, a roommate came over to ask about the evening self-study session. I'm not being cryptic. Zhou Hao and I have broken up. Please don't mention him around me anymore. After some lighthearted chatter, everyone dropped the subject and went to bed. As for me, I kept burning the midnight oil. I've forgotten too much. I have to squeeze out every bit of time and energy to get back to my peak form. It was in moments like these that I suddenly appreciated the perks of this elite school. The student dorms were suites shared by 4 people, each with a private bedroom, a bathroom, and a common living area. No matter how late I studied, I never had to worry about disturbing anyone. So, in my past life, how on earth did I manage to gradually ignore such an excellent study environment and let my mind wander off to dating instead? Based on a quick review during evening self-study, I've drawn up a priority list for my revision. My Chinese and English haven't slipped too much. I just need to brush up on the key points. Math and the science subjects are more of a struggle. Many formulas have grown fuzzy, and my thinking isn't as sharp when solving problems, so I need more intensive practice. After finalizing a step-by-step plan, I finally turned off the light and went to sleep. After making a complete fool of himself, Zhou Hao realized he could no longer deceive me. He gave up on trying to string me along. Instead, he started working against me. He slandered me and spread rumors about me. Do you know why Shen Shuang suddenly hates me? Because I found out her secret. She's really loose. You can barely feel a thing going in. Who knows how many times she's done it before. I really thought she was some innocent, straight-A student. Honestly, being poor isn't the worst part. It's the lack of self-respect that's truly hopeless. He's telling people that I was the one who came onto him first, that I made him date me. All those gifts he gave me on his own accord, he's twisting it to make it seem like I asked for them first. In my eagerness to get into his bed, I tipped my hand and he caught on, which is why I flew into a rage and hit him out of sheer humiliation. In short, I'm a lowlife who tried to take a shortcut and latch onto someone for my own gain. When 2 people from vastly different social backgrounds get involved, the one from the less privileged side is more likely to be scrutinized. On top of that, Zhou Hao has a much better social network at this school than I do. People naturally tend to believe what he says. Even those with some doubts would instinctively side with Zhou Hao. Salacious gossip like this always spreads the fastest. In less than a day, I had become notorious as a scheming, promiscuous woman already struggling to fit in at school. I found myself completely isolated. My response was to simply ignore it. Proving my innocence would take too much time, and time is the one thing I don't have. Besides, no one really cares about the truth anyway. Shouting myself hoarse to defend my point would just give them more gossip to chew on. Being left alone isn't so bad. At least no one will disturb me while I'm studying. What do they think of me? I couldn't care less. We're from completely different worlds anyway. When there's such a gap in our overall standing, making a good impression is pointless. I'll never be their equal. The day I become someone they want to curry favor with, they'll be tripping over themselves to clear my name of these rumors. As for me, there's only one reliable path to getting stronger: diligent study. My indifferent reaction caught Zhou Hao's eye. Thinking I was scared, he grew even more brazen, daring to spout nonsense right in front of me, as if he was absolutely certain I wouldn't dare say a word. For a split second, I actually considered whether I should slap him again and then call the police. I could do that, but honestly, I'm worried he'd come back at me even harder. Given Zhou Hao's petty character, he absolutely would. Just like most people at this school, he's already set on using the alternative path Xingyu offers to apply for overseas university prep courses. No need for the Gaokao, so he's got all the time in the world to mess with me. The reality is, even though I'm a reborn individual with what seems like a cheat ability, at this very moment, I still lack the power to exact a thorough and effective revenge on him. This applies to his actions from his past life as well as the present. I simply don't have the capability or the energy to fight back, but it's fine, there's still a long road ahead. I only took 2 sick days, and now the whole place reeks. What happened? Just as I was struggling to contain the turmoil inside me, a sharp, piercing woman's voice suddenly cut through the air. It was a very distinctive voice. She was the famously spoiled little princess of the class, Lin Qingqing. Lin Qingqing looked at Zhou Hao. Did you eat shit in the bathroom? Your mouth is full of filth. She seemed completely unafraid to talk about things related to sexual insults, talking about tight or loose. Have you ever considered that maybe you're just too small? Are you a walking MAC lipstick bullet or something? Lin Qingqing came from the most prestigious family among this group of spoiled brats, and she had always carried herself with an air of flamboyant arrogance. Zhou Hao's face flushed crimson with frustration. It's her fault, he blurted out. No one else makes me feel that way. Seems you're quite the expert, Lin Qingqing said, casting a contemptuous glance over him. You must be pretty depraved and lacking in self-respect, you filthy man-whore. Zhou Hao simply didn't dare to provoke her, left fuming and grinding his teeth in helpless agitation. Lin Qingqing scanned the faces around her. We've been classmates for so long, everyone knows each other's character and what they're capable of. You're all adults, yet you're too cowardly to take a fair stand. How pathetic. No one dared to contradict her. Lin Qingqing, why are you defending Shen Xuan? Zhou Hao spat out through gritted teeth. Do you even know how much she despises you? She's told me countless times that you're brainless, pretentious, and a complete fool. Slander. That's an outright lie. Even though Lin Qingqing and I don't get along, I've never talked behind her back. I was about to speak up in my own defense when I saw Lin Qingqing roll her eyes at Zhou Hao. What's it to you if we girls have a little spat? Quit trying to stir up drama, you're such a turn-off. Zhou Hao was stunned. He couldn't figure out why Lin Qingqing would stand up for me. After all, Lin Qingqing was the first one to lead the charge in making fun of me. It was my very first day at this school, and the teacher had seated me right behind Lin Qingqing. She eagerly turned around to talk to me, picked up my pencil case, and exclaimed in amazement, how did you manage to get this design? It's a limited edition, and you're using it as a pencil case. What a waste. Then she paused, looking puzzled, and said, Min. A burst of laughter erupted around me. I had no idea what the others were laughing about. I just felt utterly flustered. I bought the pencil case myself at a little accessories shop. It's an off-white color, cute and soft, with a just right capacity, and it's very sturdy and durable. I had never paid attention to the letters on it. Could they possibly have some other meaning? Zhou Hao later told me there's a luxury brand called Miao Miao. Their items easily cost 5 figures. My pencil case is a knockoff. Lin Qingqing was deliberately trying to embarrass me. She was trying to mock me as a vain woman who couldn't afford luxury goods and tried to pass off cheap knockoffs as the real thing. Hearing Zhou Hao's words, I was engulfed by a wave of inferiority like never before. From then on, I instinctively avoided her at every turn. Snapping back to the present, Lin Qingqing had finished putting Zhou Hao in his place and was walking back to her seat. It passed by me. I whispered a quiet thank you to her. As usual, she completely ignored me. With a dismissive humph, she turned her head, sat down, pulled out a mirror, and started touching up her makeup. What an odd person. At lunchtime, instead of heading straight to the cafeteria, I went to the bakery on campus. I waited in line for half an hour to get a freshly baked souffle. I chose the strawberry flavor. Just as I got to the front of the line, Lin Qingqing also arrived at the bakery. I handed her the freshly baked strawberry souffle and said, you don't have to wait in line, I got it for you. During the break, I overheard her mumbling about wanting to try a strawberry souffle. Lin Qingqing was taken aback and exclaimed, what are you doing? Thank you. To be honest, given how stressed I am about studying right now, if it were just for myself, I wouldn't spend the time to buy this, but spending time for Lin Qingqing is worth it. Lin Qingqing pursed her lips. About what happened today, it wasn't necessary. I wasn't speaking up for you. I just can't stand it when someone slut-shames a girl. It's not just because of what happened today, I said. I owe you a lot of thank yous. Lin Qingqing was visibly starting to get confused, and you couldn't blame her for being confused. It wasn't until I went over the events of my past life again that I realized this myself. Back when Zhou Hao and I first made our relationship official, everyone else just cheered and offered their congratulations. Lin Qingqing was the only one who looked utterly exasperated. She rolled her eyes at me in front of everyone and said, have you forgotten your actual situation? You're putting the cart before the horse. Because of what happened on the first day of school, I instinctively thought she was mocking me again, sneering at my shabby poverty and implying I didn't belong in their circle. But thinking about it now, was she really wrong? I came here to study hard, earn the scholarship, and carve out a bright future for myself. I simply don't have the luxury to waste my precious youth on frivolous romantic pursuits. I also remembered that in my past life, after the news of my unexpected pregnancy broke, Lin Qingqing had a private talk with me. She was fierce, insisting I must get an abortion, then pull myself together and take the college entrance exams. Even if I didn't do well this year, I could always retake them. Under no circumstances should I give up my studies to get married and have a child. She had no idea about Zhou Hao's family's plan. She was simply considering the consequences of the situation itself in a perfectly normal way. Unfortunately, I had already been successfully brainwashed by Zhou Hao at the time. On top of that, my pride got the better of me, and I refused to seriously consider her words, simply thinking she was deliberately opposing me again. Utterly foolish. Looking back now, I realize I owe her not just many thank yous, but also many I'm sorries. I misunderstood her character and failed to appreciate her kindness. I'm truly sorry. In short, thank you. Also, I owe you an apology. I've misunderstood you since the start of the term. My own insecurities led me to be prejudiced against you, and for that, I apologize. I couldn't bring myself to explain all that past life business to her, so I stuck to the timeline of this life. Lin Qingqing turned her head away. It was a long moment before she looked back at me, her eyes actually a little red. I owe you an apology too. That whole situation really must have embarrassed you, but I truly didn't mean for it to happen. I actually wanted to be friends with you from the very first day. I was just trying to find some common ground to talk about, but I never expected. Well, it's only natural that a young lady like you wouldn't be familiar with knockoff goods. Anyway, I really didn't mean to embarrass you. I tried to explain things to you later, but by then you'd already started to dislike me, and I'm not exactly the type who can easily swallow my pride. So, what a classic tsundere. Prickly on the outside but kind-hearted on the inside, and just like that, Lin Qingqing and I became friends. That was something I truly hadn't anticipated. Lin Qingqing was very curious about why I had suddenly come to my senses and broken up with Zhou Hao so decisively. After all, when I first got together with Zhou Hao, I wouldn't listen to a single word of her advice. After some thought, I came clean with her about my rebirth. I had worried she'd think I was crazy if I told her, but after getting to know her better, that concern completely vanished, just as I expected. Lin Qingqing's face flushed with anger, her delicate fists clenched. Zhou Hao and his family are absolute monsters. We have to get back at them, and make it hurt. I shook my head. I'm not ready yet, and the time isn't right. All my focus has to be on the final sprint for the college entrance exam. Lin Qingqing's eyes lit up as if she just had a thought. You came back from the future, so you must have paid attention to the exam questions in your past life, right? Should I be congratulating this year's top science student in advance? I could only shake my head again. After deciding to give up on the college entrance exam in my past life, it was like a demon had taken hold of my mind. I avoided any word or piece of information related to the exam. It wasn't just that year. Every year since has been the same. On June 7th and 8th each year, I'm too afraid to even turn on my phone, passing the time by frantically doing housework. I know that deep down, I started regretting it the very moment I decided to give up on the college entrance exam. To stop this regret from consuming me, my brain activated a self-preservation mode, blocking out anything related to the exam. Lin Qingqing gave me a knowing hug. You won't miss out this time. Go for it. I hugged her back. There's one more thing I need to tell you. This was also the second reason I decided to tell Lin Qingqing about my rebirth. There was something I absolutely had to warn her about. Lin Qingqing's family ran a chain of educational support businesses, a nationally franchised operation that was quite well known. She often jokes that while her parents have students all over the world, their own home produced a bitter gourd. Perhaps it's precisely because of this family background that she can't stand to see someone with real academic potential wasted all away. As for herself, she's well aware she's a bit of a slacker, but thanks to her family's immense wealth, she's never felt any anxiety and was ready to coast through life from an early age. However, within 3 years, education policy reforms would lead to a complete purge of the tutoring industry. Lin Qingqing's days of lying flat turned out to be nothing but a pipe dream in her previous life. After the tutoring industry was suddenly upended overnight, a major funding gap emerged in Lin Qingqing's family. Many large corporations inherently operate with a mix of assets and liabilities, and they don't typically keep substantial cash reserves on hand. When the cash flow dries up, bankruptcy can happen in the blink of an eye. After her family's business ran into trouble, Lin Qingqing's overseas studies were hit with a funding crisis. She was forced to take on every odd job she could find to scrape together tuition and stay in school. Otherwise, she wouldn't get her degree. Not only would the tuition and time from the past 2 years be wasted, but her future career prospects would be severely limited. Lin Qingqing had always been quite flamboyant in high school, so after this happened, Zhou Hao couldn't wait to tell me all about it with gleeful schadenfreude. A kind-hearted girl like her shouldn't have ended up in such a predicament. If you can, go home and try to persuade your parents not to put all their eggs in one basket. See if they can branch out into other areas soon. To have multiple sources of support. Lin Qingqing panicked. No way, my parents are so stubborn. They'd never listen to me. What am I supposed to do if I can't convince them? Sobs. My future is ruined. If you can't persuade them, then you need to figure out a way to prepare yourself in advance. I took her hand. A useless person like me. I'm no good at studying. I have no idea how to start a business. I'll never make any money. You can do it. I've already thought it through for her. You could be a beauty vlogger soon. A certain short video app is going to blow up. Lin Qingqing has always been meticulous about her appearance, with excellent makeup skills and a great sense of style, in my opinion. She's more talented than many up-and-coming influencers. If she can get into the game early, she's bound to become a top creator. Once you've made it, you'll be able to prove to your parents that you have foresight and the ability to support yourself. After that, when you offer them advice, they'll definitely be willing to listen. Life became remarkably simple after that. I threw myself into studying, grinding through practice problems every single day. Meanwhile, Lin Qingqing had already started running her own social media account. Before I knew it, May had arrived, and I began having frequent nightmares for no apparent reason. The moment I close my eyes at night, I dream of what happened after I married into Zhou Hao's family in my past life. After the college entrance exam was over, I began to show signs of depression, and the pregnancy was not stable. To ensure a safe delivery, the Zhou family promised to send me abroad to study once the child was born. But after the child was born, they went back on their word. They say the child is too young to be without its mother, and that a woman's primary duty is to manage the household and raise children. They argue that no matter how much education a girl gets, she'll end up back in the home anyway, so what's the point of studying at all when you get right down to it? They're just afraid that if I go back to school, I'll clear my head, find my own path, and become harder to control. After the child was born, my years living with the Zhou family were far from easy. Even though the Zhou family had hired help, Mr. and Mrs. Zhou wouldn't allow the maids to assist me. Instead, they treated me like the hired help. I did all the shopping, cooking, and cleaning, and they still expected me to kowtow to them morning and night like some ancient servant. Even after all that compliance, once Zhou Hao found a new girlfriend, he just cast me aside without a second thought. He gave me 200,000 and acted like he'd done his absolute moral duty. How utterly ridiculous. It's clear that when a person leaves themselves no capacity for self-reliance, they become nothing more than a helpless pawn in others' hands. Utterly devoid of respect, I was trapped in a recurring nightmare of being ensnared by the Zhou family, which left me with dark circles under my eyes and utterly drained of energy every day. After Lin Qingqing found out, she insisted on barging into my bedroom every night and squeezing into the same bed with me. Don't be afraid, I'm here. Even if Zhou Hao resorts to force, there's absolutely no way he can take you from me. You know what? After she squeezed her way in, it actually worked pretty well. I never had those ominous dreams again. Afterward, I performed very consistently during the 2 days of the college entrance exam. After the results came out, I didn't top the charts, but I did manage to meet the threshold for Tsinghua or Peking University and got into the finance program I wanted. During university, I also worked part-time as a content creator. Honestly, I don't have any particular talents or a natural knack for video production, but by leveraging my status as a top university student and sharing bits of my daily life and study tips, I managed to stand out from the crowd of newcomers, attract a following, and even land the occasional sponsored post. I combined that income with the scholarship I received for getting into Tsinghua/Peking University and made some small investments using my professional knowledge. The results were surprisingly good. These gains then became the seed money for my startup in my junior year. The course of my life in this existence has diverged completely from my last. I'm now living the life I always wanted, the one I was meant to have. Of course, I hadn't forgotten about Zhou Hao. My life getting better doesn't mean I'll forgive him and his family for the despicable things they did. The year I graduated from university, Zhou Hao also graduated from his overseas program. I sent an anonymous email to his university, reporting him for academic misconduct. Zhou Hao has always been a slacker. In his past life, he just scraped by hiring ghostwriters to do his work. Of course, nothing has changed for him in this life. The only difference is, the ghostwriter he hired this time around was actually my alt account. The evidence is overwhelming. His degree was revoked, and his overseas educated, top student girlfriend, the one he'd wanted to marry in his past life, saw right through him and angrily broke up with him. Come to think of it, that girl had a pretty rough time in her past life, too. The Zhou family deceived her into believing that my child with Zhou Hao was actually Zhou Hao's younger brother, and just like that, She foolishly married that scumbag. I lowered my gaze. This level of punishment is nowhere near enough for Zhou Hao even without a single degree. It wouldn't stop him from inheriting the family business. He can still put on a front and boast to the outside world. No one's actually going to check his diploma, but for now, this is all I can do. The rest will have to wait. I'm diligently building my own career and living my own life to the fullest. By the time I was 30, my career was already thriving. I owned an investment firm with an impeccable reputation in the industry. I never realized I was capable of achieving so much. A tough economic climate, combined with Zhou Hao's own mediocre abilities, led the Zhou family business into a steady decline under his management. He was desperately eager to accomplish something substantial. The opportunity he had been waiting for had finally arrived. I had my people set a trap, exploiting Zhou Hao's desperate desire for success to lure him into recklessly expanding into an unfamiliar field. Then, we completely drained his cash flow. The Zhou family was officially bankrupt. Their liabilities exceeded their assets. He and his parents toiled day in and day out just to make ends meet, making it nearly impossible to arrange another marriage for him. The day the news arrived, I felt nothing inside. I suppose you could say it added a tiny, insignificant bit of amusement to my otherwise free and comfortable life. A message came through on my phone. Lin Qingqing invited me to go on a vacation. She became an online influencer and shot to fame not long after starting. Seizing the momentum, she convinced her parents to start an MCN agency and also launched her own cosmetics brand. Since it was completely aligned with her passion, she managed it exceptionally well. At 30, we're all single and thriving. Let's go on a vacation together. That's the real joy of it all. The end. Story 2, Mr. Gu, your wife has gone to the Civil Affairs Bureau again. The secretary cautiously pushed open the office door, her voice tinged with obvious nervousness. Gu Lingxiao didn't even look up, his slender fingers flying across the keyboard. How many times is this? The 8th time this month. With a sharp snap, the fountain pen was broken in two. Gu Lingxiao slowly raised his head, a dangerous glint flashing in his deep-set eyes. In 3 years of marriage, Shen Qingyu had gone to the Civil Affairs Bureau to file for divorce a full 24 times. Every single time, she was thwarted by some coincidence or another. Either the system was down, a staff member was suddenly unavailable, or she herself had a last-minute change of heart. Have the car ready. I'll go pick her up myself. Gu Lingxiao stood up and straightened his tie. The secretary hesitated. Mr. Gu, this time, the situation is a bit different. What do you mean, Mrs. Gu brought a lawyer, and she produced the agreement you signed back then. Gu Lingxiao's face instantly darkened, his expression turning stormy. He had thought Shen Qingyu destroyed that agreement from 3 years ago. Long ago. It was the guarantee letter she had tearfully demanded he sign on the eve of their wedding, stipulating that if he ever betrayed their marriage, she would have the right to an unconditional divorce and 60% of the assets under his name. Back then, deeply in love with her, he had signed it without a moment's hesitation. Little did he expect that 3 years later, this very agreement would become the sharp blade she wielded to leave him. Damn it, Gu Lingxiao slammed his fist on the table. Contact the director of civil affairs immediately. Find a way to stall her. I already have. But, the secretary's voice grew even quieter. The director said, Mrs. Gu threatened to expose your affair with Miss Bai. If we try to stop her again, she'll send the photos to the media. Gu Lingxiao's pupils constricted sharply. Shen Qingyu actually knows about Bai Shuer's existence. He thought his affair with Bai Shuer was handled flawlessly. How on earth could Shen Qingyu have found out? There's one more thing. The secretary swallowed hard. Madam said if you dare to obstruct the divorce again, she will hand over the evidence of your private transfer of company assets to the procuratorate. At that moment, Gu Lingxiao finally realized he had underestimated the woman who seemed so docile and gentle at home. For 3 years of marriage, Shen Qingyu had played the part of the perfect wife. She never questioned his whereabouts, never checked his phone, and even when he came home late at night, she would only ask gently, was work tiring? He thought she genuinely didn't mind, or perhaps, loved him enough to endure anything. But now it seemed she wasn't unaware. She was quietly gathering evidence all along. Get the car ready. Gu Lingxiao strode toward the door. Let's see what she's really up to. In the Civil Affairs Bureau hall, Shen Qingyu sat in the waiting area, clutching the 3-year-old agreement tightly. Her face was pale, but her gaze was unusually resolute. Ms. Shen, are you absolutely certain about this? The lawyer seated beside her, Zhou Mingxian, lowered his voice to ask. You're aware of Mr. Gu's influence in the business world. If we burn all bridges, I've endured it for 3 years. Shen Qingyu's voice was soft, yet each word cut like a knife. 3 years ago, I thought he married me for love. Now I know I was just a tool to cover up his true relationship. Zhou Mingxian sighed, as Shen Qingyu's university classmate, He understood better than anyone the suffering this woman had endured over the past 3 years. On the surface, she was a wealthy society wife, but in reality, she couldn't even earn her own husband's genuine affection. The evidence you have is indeed compelling, but Mr. Gu, Zhou Mingxian trailed off, leaving his sentence unfinished. I know he's no pushover, Shen Qingyu said with a faint smile, but what he doesn't know is that neither am I. No sooner had the words been spoken than the doors of the Civil Affairs Bureau swung open. Gu Lingxiao strode in with 2 bodyguards in tow, his handsome face a mask of fury. The moment she saw him, Shen Qingyu's heart betrayed her. With a traitorous flutter, 3 years had passed, yet she was still affected by this man's appearance, his towering height of 188 centimeters, his perfect proportions, and that face that drove countless women wild. But now, none of that mattered. Shen Qingyu, Gu Lingxiao strode up to her, his voice low but carrying a palpable fury that everyone present could feel. Do you have any idea what you're doing? Shen Qingyu rose slowly to her feet, her clear eyes meeting his directly. I am exercising my legal rights as your wife. You think you can threaten me with that agreement? Gu Lingxiao sneered. Shen Qingyu, don't forget who gave you everything you have now. Yes, you gave me everything, Shen Qingyu nodded, including the humiliation and pain of these past 3 years. You gave me that too. She took an envelope from her bag and placed it gently on the table. This contains your hotel check-in records with Bai Shuer, the bank statements of your private transfers to her, and intimate photos of the 2 of you in her apartment. Gu Lingxiao's face turned ashen. And of course, there are even more interesting things, Shen Qingyu said, a mocking smile curling at the corner of her lips, such as the evidence that you secretly embezzled funds from the Gu Group to invest in Bai Shuer's company. In that moment, Gu Lingxiao finally understood. The woman standing before him was no longer the Shen Qingyu from 3 years ago, who would compromise and endure anything for love. She had changed. She had become someone unfamiliar to him, and it made him feel afraid. Chapter 2, Impossible, Gu Lingxiao flatly denied. There's no way you could have gotten your hands on that evidence. Shen Qingyu didn't say a word. She simply took a voice recorder from her bag and pressed the play button. Shuer, don't worry, that foolish woman Qingyu doesn't suspect a thing. As long as she stays home and plays the part of my trophy wife, the Gu family shares will be yours sooner or later. Gu Lingxiao's face turned deathly pale the moment he heard his own voice playing back from the recorder. These were the words he had spoken in Bai Shuer's apartment last month. They had been alone in the room. How on earth could Shen Qingyu have recorded it? Did you plant a spy on me? Gu Lingxiao's voice trembled slightly. No, I simply learned to protect myself, Shen Qingyu replied calmly, putting the recorder away. I've been gathering evidence for a year now. Gu Lingxiao, do you have any idea what it feels like to discover your own husband's betrayal? Her voice was soft, yet every word pierced Gu Lingxiao's heart like a needle. It feels like, every night when you come home and kiss me, I'm wondering if these lips were just kissing another woman. Every time you say you love me, I'm wondering how many times you've said the exact same thing to her. The staff around them stopped what they were doing, staring at the scene in shock. The esteemed president of the Gu Group, caught in an affair and publicly exposed by his own wife at the Civil Affairs Bureau. If this gets out, the entire business world will be rocked. Shen Qingyu, I can explain. Gu Lingxiao tried to salvage the situation. There's no need. Shen Qingyu shook her head. An explanation won't change the fact that you betrayed me. Besides, I didn't come here today to listen to your excuses. She turned to the Civil Affairs Bureau staff and said, excuse me, can we proceed with the divorce paperwork now? The staff member looked awkwardly from Gu Lingxiao to Shen Qingyu. Well, this requires the consent of both parties. He'll agree. Shen Qingyu's tone was unnervingly certain. Gu Lingxiao gave a cold laugh. And what if I don't? Shen Qingyu slowly turned around, a dangerous glint flashing in her clear eyes. Then I'll release all this evidence to the public. What you'll be facing then won't be as simple as just a divorce. She paused, then continued, misappropriating company funds. Legally, that's called embezzlement. According to the criminal law, for a significant amount, the sentence can be 5 years or more in prison. Gu Lingxiao's expression darkened further. He had indeed embezzled company funds, a staggering 30 million, while he had the means to cover it up. If this were exposed, not only would his reputation be ruined, but Gu Group stock would also plummet. Are you threatening me? No, I'm simply stating the facts. Shen Qingyu's voice remained calm. Gu Lingxiao, I'm giving you 2 choices. First, cooperate with me on the divorce proceedings, and I guarantee this evidence will never see the light of day. Second, continue to be uncooperative, and then wait to see it on the front page of the news. Gu Lingxiao clenched his fists, the veins on the back of his hands bulging. He had never imagined that the woman who was as docile as a kitten in front of him could possess such sharp claws. What do you think you'll gain from a divorce? Gu Lingxiao made a final, desperate attempt. Without the status of Mrs. Gu, you are nothing. Hearing this, Shen Qingyu suddenly laughed. The smile was beautiful, yet it carried a chilling undertone. Gu Lingxiao, did you really think I did nothing these past 3 years? She pulled a document from her bag. This is the equity certificate under my name, Qingyu Technology Co., Limited, with a registered capital of 50 million, primarily focuses on AI technology. Randy. Gu Lingxiao's eyes widened in shock. He had been completely unaware that Shen Qingyu owned a company, and this, Shen Qingyu produced another document, is my bank statement from Switzerland, 30 million US dollars, all earned from my investments over the past 3 years. At that moment, Gu Lingxiao felt as if he had never truly understood the woman before him. After 3 years of marriage, he had thought Shen Qingyu was merely a trophy wife, a woman who depended on him for survival, but now he realized that Shen Qingyu not only had her own career, but also possessed wealth far beyond anything he had imagined. The last one, Shen Qingyu's voice held a trace of smugness. This is the transfer agreement for 15% of Gu Group's shares. Have you forgotten? This was the wedding gift you gave me when we married. Gu Lingxiao's face instantly turned as pale as a sheet. 15% of the shares. That was a critical stake in Gu Group. If Shen Qingyu sold those shares to his competitors, you can't do this. Gu Lingxiao practically roared. Why can't I? Shen Qingyu retorted, you gave these to me with your own hands. They are my legal property now. She glanced at her watch. The Civil Affairs Bureau closes in 10 minutes. Gu Lingxiao, have you made up your mind? Gu Lingxiao stood rooted to the spot, his fists clenched so tightly his knuckles cracked. He knew he was out of options. If he dragged this out any longer, Shen Qingyu might really make that evidence public. Then, he would face not just the collapse of his marriage, but the ruin of his career. Fine, I'll sign, he said, enunciating each word carefully, but I have one condition. Shen Qingyu raised an eyebrow. What condition? You cannot sell that 15% stake to any of my competitors. Shen Qingyu thought for a moment, then nodded, agreed, you have my word. Gu Lingxiao finally breathed a sigh of relief, walked up to the counter, and picked up the pen, but just as he was about to sign, the door to the Civil Affairs Bureau was pushed open once more. A woman dressed in a Chanel suit walked in. It was Bai Shuer. Upon seeing Shen Qingyu, a provocative smile appeared on Bai Shuer's face. Sister Qingyu, are you really going to divorce Lingxiao? Chapter 3. Shen Qingyu's eyes registered a flicker of surprise at Bai Shuer's sudden appearance, but her composure returned almost instantly. What brings you here, Miss Bai? Shen Qingyu asked, her tone cool and detached. Bai Shuer walked over to Gu Lingxiao and naturally linked her arm with his. I'm here to stop you from getting a divorce. Of course, you've got it all wrong, Qingyu. There's really nothing going on between Lingxiao and me. Her voice was sweet, and her expression was utterly innocent, like a pure white lotus flower. But Shen Qingyu just gave a cold laugh. Oh really? Then how do you explain this? She took out her phone and opened a video. In the video, Bai Shuer was sitting on Gu Lingxiao's lap. The two of them locked in a passionate kiss. Judging from the camera angle, it must have been taken in Gu Lingxiao's office. Bai Shuer's face instantly drained of all color. This is photoshopped, she tried to argue. Oh, really? Shen Qingyu opened another video. What about this one? This video was even more explosive. Bai Shuer, clad in sexy lingerie, was on Gu Lingxiao's desk. Enough. Gu Lingxiao shot to his feet. Shen Qingyu, what is it you actually want? What I want is simple. Shen Qingyu put away her phone. A divorce. So we can each go our separate ways, but it seems some people aren't willing to let me have my way. She looked at Bai Shuer, a hint of mockery in her eyes. Miss Bai, what are you doing here? To talk me out of the divorce, or to tell me that you're the one who truly loves Gu Lingxiao? Bai Shuer bit her lip, a flash of venom in her eyes. Sister Qingyu, you've already gotten so much, why can't you just let us be together, let you two be together? Shen Qingyu let out a bitter laugh, as if she'd just heard the most absurd joke in the world. Bai Shuer, do you have any idea what you're saying? She rose to her feet and advanced on Bai Shuer step by step. You seduced a married man, wrecked someone else's marriage, and now you have the nerve to ask me to step aside for you. Bai Shuer was momentarily cowed by Shen Qingyu's imposing presence, instinctively taking a few steps backward, but she quickly regained her composure, squaring her shoulders defiantly. Lingxiao never loved you. If he did, why would he be with me? You're right, Shen Qingyu nodded. He truly doesn't love me. But so what? She turned to look at Gu Lingxiao. Since you don't love me, divorce should be a relief for you, so why are you trying to stop it? Gu Lingxiao opened his mouth, wanting to say something, But in the end, nothing came out. Did he even know that he didn't love Shen Qingyu? It's hard to put into words. In the beginning, I married Shen Qingyu because her father's company was beneficial to the Gu group, but over these 3 years, watching her gently prepare my breakfast every morning, organize my clothes, and bring me supper when I worked late, he had to admit, he'd grown accustomed to her presence. But habit and love are two entirely different things. Ling Xiao, say something, Bai Shuer pleaded urgently, shaking Gu Lingxiao's arm. Tell her it's me you love. Gu Lingxiao looked at Bai Shuer, then at Shen Qingyu, but in the end, he remained silent. Witnessing this scene, a wave of desolation washed over Shen Qingyu's heart. Even now, Gu Lingxiao was unwilling to acknowledge their relationship. It wasn't because he still had feelings for her, but because he couldn't bear to part with the conveniences that came with the title of Mrs. Gu. I see, Shen Qingyu nodded, her voice cold. Gu Lingxiao, you don't want this divorce because you love me. It's because you can't bear to lose my father's company's backing, and you can't bear to part with the shares under my name, am I right? Gu Lingxiao's face darkened, but he still offered no denial. Shen Qingyu let out a bitter laugh. I've been such a fool, it took me until now to finally see your true colors. She sat back down and addressed the clerk. Please proceed with the divorce paperwork. Wait, Bai Shuer suddenly cried out. I have something to say. Everyone turned to look at her. Bai Shuer took a deep breath, then delivered a piece of news that shocked everyone present. Sister Qingyu, actually, I'm pregnant. Shen Qingyu's hand trembled slightly, but she quickly regained her composure. Congratulations. The baby is Ling Xiao's, Bai Shuer continued. I'm 3 months along. At that moment, a deathly silence fell over the entire civil affairs office. Gu Lingxiao's eyes widened in disbelief as he stared at Bai Shuer. What did you say? I'm pregnant, Ling Xiao, Bai Shuer said, tears welling in her eyes. I just found out yesterday. The doctor says it's a boy. Gu Lingxiao's mind went completely blank. He and Bai Shuer had indeed been together, but he had always been so careful. How could this have happened? Are you sure the child is mine? Gu Lingxiao's voice was hoarse. Bai Shuer nodded. I can take a paternity test. Shen Qingyu listened to their conversation in silence, her face devoid of any expression. After a long while, she finally spoke. So, what are you trying to say? Bai Shuer bit her lip. Sister Qingyu, I know this is terribly unfair to you, but the child is innocent. I hope you can give us a chance. What kind of chance? Tell Ling Xiao to divorce you and be with me, so our child can have a proper family. Hearing this, Shen Qingyu suddenly laughed. She laughed uproariously, laughing until tears streamed down her face. Bai Shuer, you are truly something else, Shen Qingyu said through her laughter. You seduced another woman's husband, got pregnant with his child, and now you expect her to step aside for you. Do you have any idea what shame is? Bai Shuer's face fell. I was only thinking of the child, for the child. Shen Qingyu's smile vanished instantly. Did you ever think about the consequences when you seduced a married man? She stood up and walked over to Bai Shuer. Bai Shuer, let me make this clear. I am divorcing Gu Lingxiao today. As for your child, that's your business. It has nothing to do with me. With that, she turned to the staff member and said, please proceed with the paperwork. But just then, Gu Lingxiao suddenly spoke up. I won't sign. Everyone turned to look at him. Gu Lingxiao, what do you mean by that? Shen Qingyu's voice was laced with anger. Gu Lingxiao gave her a deep look. Since Shuer is pregnant, I have even more reason not to divorce you. Why? Because if we get a divorce, the media will dig for the reason. If Shuer's pregnancy is exposed, then it won't be good for her or the child, Gu Lingxiao said with a serious expression. Shen Qingyu let out a humorless laugh. So you want me to be a cover for your loved child? Gu Lingxiao did not deny it. At that moment, Shen Qingyu understood everything in Gu Lingxiao's heart. She was nothing but a tool. Once, it was for profit. Now, it was to cover up his affair with Bai Shuer. Fine, just perfect. Shen Qingyu nodded. Gu Lingxiao, you've truly redefined my understanding of a scumbag. She picked up her bag and walked out without a backward glance. Where are you going? Gu Lingxiao called out from behind. Shen Qingyu stopped in her tracks and glanced back at him. To find the press. Since you don't want a quiet divorce, we'll make it a spectacle. I think the whole nation will be very interested in the family drama of the Gu Group's CEO. With that, she strode out of the civil affairs office. Gu Lingxiao and Bai Shuer looked at each other, neither having expected things to escalate to this point. Meanwhile, Shen Qingyu was already hatching a different plan in her mind. If divorce was off the table, she would simply find another way. Since Gu Lingxiao wanted to play games, she would see this through to the end, but this time, she would be the one setting the rules. Chapter 4. Instead of going to the media, Shen Qingyu went straight back to her own company. Although Qingyu Technology was a relatively new company, it was growing rapidly, in particular, a new AI software they had recently developed had already caught the attention of several investment firms. "Ms. Shen, you're back," said Assistant Lin, immediately stepping forward to greet her. "There's something I need to report to you." "Go on." Shen Qingyu sat down at her desk and began to sort through the documents. "This afternoon, a representative from the GU Group came to see you. They expressed an interest in acquiring our company. Their offer is 300 million. Shen Qingyu's hand paused. 300 million, yes, that's more than double our company's actual valuation. Xiao Lin sounded excited. "President Shen, this is a great opportunity." Shen Qingyu let out a cold, mocking laugh. Was Gu Lingxiao trying to control her through an acquisition? 300 million sounded like a lot, but for the current GU Group, it was a drop in the bucket. "Tell them the answer is no." "Huh," Xiao Lin was stunned. "But President Shen, 300 million, I said it's not for sale, and I meant it." Shen Qingyu's voice was icy. "Also, notify the legal department. We're preparing to sue the GU Group." "Sue them, on what grounds?" Shen Qingyu produced a document. "A project by the GU Group is suspected of infringing on our technical patent. They've made some modifications, but the core algorithm is identical." Xiao Lin took the file and looked it over, drawing a sharp breath. If this goes to court, the GU Group could be on the hook for billions in damages. Then let them pay." A cold glint flashed in Shen Qingyu's eyes. "Business is a battlefield. Since Gu Lingxiao wants to play this game, I'll see it through to the end with him." Meanwhile, in the CEO's office of the GU Group, Gu Lingxiao was flying into a rage. "What do you mean she won't sell? She's turning down 300 million. "Yes," President Shen flat out refused. The vice president in charge of the acquisition said cautiously, and she's planning to sue us." "A lawsuit?" Gu Lingxiao frowned. "On what grounds?" "Patent infringement." The vice president placed the documents on the desk. "CEO Shen claims our AI project plagiarized their technology." Gu Lingxiao picked up the documents and looked them over, his expression turning grim. Shen Qingyu was right. Their AI project had indeed drawn inspiration from Qingyu Tech's technology. While it appeared different on the surface, the core algorithms were undeniably similar. "What does legal say?" "Legal's opinion is, there's a real possibility we're infringing. If we lose the case, the damages could be substantial." Gu Lingxiao slammed his fist on the table. Damn it, he never expected Shen Qingyu to be this ruthless. If they lost this lawsuit, the GU Group wouldn't just face a massive financial payout, its reputation would also take a serious hit. "There's one more thing," the vice president said cautiously. "According to our sources, President Shen met with representatives from several investment firms this afternoon." "What does that mean?" "He could be seeking cooperation, or preparing for an IPO." Gu Lingxiao's heart sank. If Qingyu Tech's IPO is successful, Shen Qingyu's net worth will multiply several times over. When that happens, she truly won't need to rely on anyone. Contact those investment firms immediately and find a way to block this deal, Gu Lingxiao said coldly. "But President Gu, given the current state of our relations," the vice president trailed off, leaving his thought unfinished. Gu Lingxiao understood perfectly. If they openly obstructed Shen Qingyu's business deal, it would mean burning all bridges. But there's no time to worry about that now. Just then, the secretary knocked and entered. "Mr. Gu, your wife is here." Gu Lingxiao was taken aback. "What is she doing here?" "She says she has something important to discuss with you." "Let her in." Moments later, Shen Qingyu pushed the door open and entered. She had changed into a black business suit, appearing sharp and coldly efficient. "Get straight to the point." Gu Lingxiao did not rise, his tone icy. Shen Qingyu sat down opposite him, placing a document on the table. "The divorce agreement. I've drafted a new version." Gu Lingxiao didn't even glance at it. "I've already said it. I won't sign. I suggest you read the contents before making a decision." Shen Qingyu's voice was calm. "The terms this time are quite favorable for you." Gu Lingxiao picked up the document with a mixture of skepticism and curiosity. After reading just a few lines, his expression changed. "Have you lost your mind?" He looked up at Shen Qingyu. "You're really giving up all the assets." In the new divorce agreement, Shen Qingyu voluntarily relinquished all claims to Gu Lingxiao's assets, including the guarantee letter from 3 years ago. "I don't want your money," Shen Qingyu said calmly, "but I have one condition." "What condition?" "In 3 days, I will announce the reason for our divorce to the press. You will cooperate with me when the time comes." Gu Lingxiao frowned. "What do you mean?" Shen Qingyu stood up, looking down at him. "Gu Lingxiao, I'm giving you one last chance. Either sign the papers now for a dignified divorce, or in 3 days, I'll let the whole world know exactly what kind of man you are." "Are you threatening me?" "No, I'm just informing you." Shen Qingyu turned and walked towards the door. "You have 3 days, think it over carefully." Reaching the doorway, she stopped, turned back, and delivered a line that sent a chill down Gu Lingxia's spine. "Oh, and by the way, Bai Shuer's child probably isn't yours." With that, she walked out without a backward glance. Gu Lingxiao stood frozen in place, his mind in complete turmoil. The child isn't his. How could that be? But on second thought, given Bai Shuer's character, it's actually a possibility. Just as he was lost in these wild thoughts, Bai Shuer pushed the door open and walked in. "Ling Xiao, I heard Qingyu came to see you." Bai Shuer's face was filled with concern. "What did she say?" Gu Lingxiao stared at her for a long moment before suddenly asking, "Shuer, is the child in your womb really mine?" Bai Shuer's face instantly turned deathly pale. "You, why would you ask that?" Seeing her reaction, the doubting Gu Lingxiao's heart grew deeper. "Answer my question." His voice was icy cold. Bai Shuer bit her lip, a flicker of panic flashing in her eyes. "Of course it's yours, whose else could it be?" But her reaction only deepened Gu Lingxiao's suspicion. "I want a paternity test," Gu Lingxiao said coldly, rising to his feet. "What?" Bai Shuer was stunned. "Lingxiao, you don't trust me." "I only believe in science." Gu Lingxiao picked up the phone on the desk. "I'll contact the hospital right now. We'll go for the tests tomorrow." Bai Shuer's face grew even more ashen. She hadn't expected Shen Qingyu's single sentence to plant a seed of doubt in Gu Lingxiao's mind. "Lingxiao, are you really going to do this to me?" Her eyes welled up with tears. "I've given up so much for you, and now you actually doubt me." But Gu Lingxiao remained unmoved by her tears. After everything that had happened these past few days, it suddenly dawned on him that he had never truly understood any of the women in his life, whether it was Shen Qingyu or Bai Shuer. They all had sides to them he knew nothing about, and now, he was desperate to uncover the truth. Chapter 5. The next day, the atmosphere in the hospital's VIP ward was unusually oppressive. Bai Shuer lay on the examination table, her face as pale as paper. Gu Lingxiao stood nearby, watching the doctor's procedure with an expressionless face. "Mr. Gu, the fetal DNA sample has been successfully extracted. The results should be ready in about 3 hours, the doctor said, removing his gloves. "You may go and rest for a while." Gu Lingxiao gave a slight nod and turned to leave. "Lingxiao," Bai Shuer called out to him weakly. "Do you really not believe me?" Gu Lingxiao stopped in his tracks, not turning around. "Shuer, if the child is really mine, I will take responsibility, but if it's not." He left the sentence unfinished, but the implication was crystal clear. Bai Shuer watched his retreating figure, a flash of venom flickering in her eyes. She knew perfectly well the child wasn't Gu Lingxiao's. The real father was her ex-boyfriend, Chen Hao, a good-for-nothing rich kid. But Chen Hao was already married, and his wife came from a prominent family that would never tolerate him having a child out of wedlock. By comparison, Gu Lingxiao was the better choice. He had money, status, and feelings for her. If she could successfully convince him the child was his, she could escape her current predicament for good. But now, everything had been ruined by Shen Qingyu. At this thought, Bai Shuer's hatred for Shen Qingyu grew even more intense. Meanwhile, in the conference room of Qingyu Technology, Shen Qingyu was in discussions with several investors about a potential partnership. "Ms. Shen, your technology is truly cutting edge. Huaxing Capital is willing to invest 500 million for a 20% stake," said the representative from Huaxing Capital. "The terms are very generous." Shen Qingyu nodded. "But I still need some time to consider." "We understand," another investor said. "However, Ms. Shen, from what we've learned, the Gu Group has been secretly obstructing your financing plans. This will have a significant impact on your company's development." Shen Qingyu let out a cold laugh. "Let them try. Business is a battlefield. Competition drives progress." Just then, Assistant Lin hurried into the room. "Ms. Shen, this is bad." Assistant Lin's face was pale. "Several of our key clients have suddenly demanded to terminate their contracts." Shen Qingyu frowned. "What's the reason?" "They all said they've received some unfavorable news about our company and are worried it will affect their reputations." The investors present exchanged glances, all realizing this was no coincidence. "It seems the Gu Group is moving faster than we anticipated." The representative from Huaxing Capital shook his head. "Ms. Shen, under these circumstances, we may need to reassess the investment risk." The other investors quickly chimed in with their agreement. Shen Qingyu understood. This was Gu Lingxiao's retaliation. He was using his influence to isolate her company. "Everyone, I understand your concerns." Shen Qingyu stood up. "But I believe true gold fears no fire. Today's difficulties are only temporary." After seeing the investors out, Shen Qingyu sat alone in her office, her heart heavy. Although she had her own company and some savings, going head-to-head with a business titan like Gu Lingxiao was still beyond her capabilities. Just then, her phone rang. The caller ID showed an unknown number. "Hello, Miss Shen. This is Chen Hao. A man's voice came through the phone. I have something important to discuss with you. Shen Qingyu was taken aback. Chen Hao, you are Bai Shuer's ex-boyfriend. Chen Hao's voice sounded tense. Regarding her pregnancy, I think we need to talk. Shen Qingyu immediately understood. You mean, that child? It's mine, Chen Hao admitted bluntly. After Shuer and I broke up, she kept wanting to get back together. Last month, she reached out to me, saying she wanted to meet one last time, and one thing led to another. A cold glint flashed in Shen Qingyu's eyes. Why are you telling me this? Because I don't want to see Gu Lingxiao kept in the dark. Chen Hao sighed. I'm no saint myself, but at the very least, I won't let another man raise my child. Do you have proof? Yes, Shuer has sent me many text messages, and there are hotel records of our meetings. I can provide them if you need. Shen Qingyu thought for a moment. Let's meet in person, in half an hour, at the downtown cafe. After hanging up the phone, a cold smile played at the corner of Shen Qingyu's lips. If Gu Lingxiao wanted to play games with her, she would show him what a real counterattack looked like. An hour later, Shen Qingyu arrived directly at the hospital, armed with the evidence Chen Hao had provided. The paternity test results were not yet available, and Gu Lingxiao was waiting in the VIP lounge. He was somewhat surprised to see Shen Qingyu appear. What are you doing here? To watch the show, Shen Qingyu replied, taking a seat opposite him. Gu Lingxiao, what do you think the outcome will be? Gu Lingxiao didn't answer, but the deep furrow in his brow betrayed his own suspicions. Just then, Bai Shuer emerged from the hospital room. The moment she saw Shen Qingyu, her face instantly darkened. What are you doing here? Bai Shuer's voice was laced with hostility. Waiting for the results. Shen Qingyu replied with a faint smile. I'm quite curious to know who the father of your child really is. Of course it's Lingxiao's. Bai Shuer declared loudly. Don't you dare try to drive a wedge between us here. Oh, really? Shen Qingyu took out her phone. Then how do you explain these text messages? She showed Gu Lingxiao the chat records provided by Chen Hao. How gee, I miss you. Can we meet? I'll never forget you. Gu Lingxiao's face turned ashen as he read the flirtatious text messages. This is from before. Bai Shuer explained in a panic. Chen Hao and I broke up ages ago. Is that so? Shen Qingyu produced a hotel receipt. Then how do you explain this? You and Chen Hao checked into the Hilton on the 15th of last month. The color instantly drained from Bai Shuer's face. And there's this, Shen Qingyu continued, producing more evidence. Chen Hao called me yesterday and admitted outright that the child is his. If you don't believe me, I can have him come here to confront you face to face. Gu Lingxiao looked at the evidence, a tumult of emotions churning within him. It suddenly dawned on him that he had been deceived all these years. First, Shen Qingyu had concealed her true capabilities, and now, Bai Shuer had been unfaithful to him. Shuer, tell me, is any of this true? Gu Lingxiao's voice was heavy. Bai Shuer opened her mouth, wanting to defend herself, but faced with ironclad evidence, she couldn't utter a word. Just then, the doctor walked over holding the test report. Mr. Gu, the results are in. The doctor's expression was somewhat awkward. According to the DNA test, you are not biologically related to the fetus. At that moment, a deathly silence fell over the entire lounge. Gu Lingxiao closed his eyes and took a deep breath. When he opened his eyes again, his gaze toward Bai Shuer had turned completely icy. Get out, he said, enunciating each word clearly. Disappear from my sight this instant, and never let me see you again. Bai Shuer slumped in the chair, her eyes filled with utter despair. She knew, with absolute certainty, that she was finished. Shen Qingyu watched the scene unfold, feeling no sense of triumph, only a profound weariness. Gu Lingxiao, are you willing to sign the divorce papers now? She asked calmly, rising to her feet. Gu Lingxiao glanced at her and gave a nod. I'll sign. Just then, Shen Qingyu's phone suddenly rang. Seeing the caller ID, her face instantly turned deathly pale. Dad, what's wrong? Her father's frantic voice came through the line. Qingyu, come home now, the company's in trouble. Someone reported us for tax evasion, and the tax bureau has already seized the office. Chapter 6. Shen Qingyu's hand trembled as she held the phone. Her father's company was in the import-export trade. Though not large in scale, it had always operated steadily. For it to be suddenly shut down now was no coincidence. Dad, don't panic, I'm coming home right now. After hanging up, Shen Qingyu immediately turned to leave. Wait. Gu Lingxiao called out to stop her. Shen Qingyu turned around, her eyes blazing with fury. Was this your doing? Gu Lingxiao neither denied nor admitted it. Shen Qingyu, the grudge between us shouldn't involve innocent people. Innocent, Shen Qingyu sneered. And when you targeted my parents' company, did you ever consider if they were innocent? I can help you solve this problem. Gu Lingxiao looked at her. But you have to agree to one condition. What condition? Drop the lawsuit against Gu Group and destroy all the evidence in your possession. Shen Qingyu clenched her fists. Are you threatening me? I'm simply making a deal with you. Gu Lingxiao's voice was calm. Your parents' company means nothing to me, but it's everything to you. The choice is yours. Shen Qingyu stared at him, her eyes blazing with fury. She never imagined Gu Lingxiao could be so despicable, using her parents to threaten her. I need time to think. In the end, she relented. I'm giving you 1 day. Gu Lingxiao glanced at his watch. I want your answer by 3 p.m. Tomorrow. Shen Qingyu didn't say another word. She turned and quickly left the hospital. On the drive home, she kept thinking about her options. Given Gu Lingxiao's influence in the business world, ruining her parents' small company wouldn't be difficult at all. The tax issue was just the beginning. Next, there could be inspections from the Administration for Industry and Commerce, the Fire Department, and various other agencies her parents were getting on in years and simply couldn't handle. This kind of turmoil. Did she really have to give in to Gu Lingxiao? Just as she was wavering, her assistant Xiao Lin called. President Shen, I have some good news for you, Xiao Lin said excitedly. Director Li just contacted me. He says an important client wants to meet with you. What client? Shen Qingyu asked absent-mindedly. The Crown Prince of Xingshi Group, Hua Sikhen. Shen Qingyu was taken aback. Hua Sikhen. What does he want with me? Xingshi Group is a top-tier investment firm in the country, with formidable strength and a pivotal position in the business world. As the heir to Xingshi Group, Hua Sikhen is a standout among the younger generation of entrepreneurs. I don't know the specifics, but Director Li said that Mr. Hua is very interested in our technology and wants to discuss a partnership. Shen Qingyu thought for a moment. When is the meeting scheduled for? 8 o'clock tonight. At the Sky Restaurant on the top floor of the Jinmao Tower. Understood. After hanging up the phone, Shen Qingyu felt a little better. If they could secure a partnership with Xingshi Group, it would not only resolve the company's funding issues but also provide some leverage against Gu Lingxiao's pressure. 8:00 p.m. Sky Restaurant. Wearing a black business suit, Shen Qingyu walked into the private room with an elegant air. There was only one man in the private room, standing with his back to her as he gazed at the night view. Hearing the footsteps, the man turned around. It was a strikingly handsome face, with sharp brows, bright eyes, and deeply sculpted, three-dimensional features. Though not old, he exuded the compelling charm of a mature man from head to toe. Miss Shen, I've long heard of your reputation, Hua Sikhen said, extending his hand. I am Hua Sikhen, Mr. Hua. It's a pleasure to meet you, Shen Qingyu replied, shaking his hand. May I ask what brings you to see me? Please, have a seat. Hua Sikhen gestured. Let's talk over the meal. After they were seated, Hua Sikhen got straight to the point. Ms. Shen, I'm very interested in your company. Oh, your AI technology is truly advanced. Our Xingshi Group would like to invest. He looked at her. 1 billion, for a 30% stake. What do you think? Shen Qingyu was taken aback. An investment of 1 billion yuan was far more than she had anticipated. The terms are very generous, but I'd like to know, why did you choose our company? Hua Sikhen smiled slightly. Because I admire you as a person. What do you mean by that? For a woman to quietly build a company valued at over 100 million in just 3 years, and to persist under Gu Lingxiao's pressure all this time, that takes immense courage and wisdom. Hua Sikhen raised his glass. Miss Shen, a toast to you. Shen Qingyu also raised her glass and gently clinked it against his. Mr. Hua, you seem to be quite familiar with my private affairs. In business, information is currency. Hua Sikhen set down his glass. Besides, Gu Lingxiao and I go way back. Competitors in the marketplace. A cold glint flashed in Hua Sikhen's eyes. Over the years, he snatched quite a few projects from us. So, helping you is also helping myself. Shen Qingyu understood. Hua Sikhen wanted to use her to deal with Gu Lingxiao, but that was exactly what she needed. Then it's a pleasure doing business with you, Shen Qingyu said, raising her glass. Wait, Hua Sikhen suddenly said, I have an additional proposal. What proposal? Marry me. Shen Qingyu nearly choked on her wine. What? I'm serious. Hua Sikhen looked into her eyes. You need a powerful ally to stand against Gu Lingxiao right now, and I can provide exactly that kind of protection. But we've only just met. It's just a marriage of convenience. Hua Sikhen shrugged. We can sign an agreement to divorce automatically in 3 years. We'll live our own lives separately during that time, with no interference. Shen Qingyu fell into deep thought. From a rational standpoint, it was indeed a good option. Hua Sikhen's status and position were enough to make Gu Lingxiao think twice, and 3 years would be sufficient for her to build up her own strength. I need to think about it. Of course. Hua Sikhen nodded with gentlemanly grace. However, Miss Shen, from what I understand, Gu Lingxiao is going to make a move against your parents' company tomorrow. Time is running out. Shen Qingyu's heart tightened. You even Know about that, know your enemy and know yourself, and you can fight 100 battles without defeat. Hua Sik-hen offered a faint smile. If you agree to my proposal, I can have someone take care of this matter tomorrow. Shen Qingyu bit her lip, then finally nodded. Alright, I agree. Perfect. Hua Sik-hen stood up. Then we'll go get the marriage certificate tomorrow. At that very moment, the door to the private room was suddenly pushed open. Gu Lingxiao walked in with a dark expression, followed by several bodyguards. Hua Sik-hen. What's the meaning of this? Gu Lingxiao's voice was icy. You're poaching right under my nose, here of all places. Hua Sik-hen sat down unhurriedly. Mr. Gu, that's not quite right. Miss Shen is a free woman now. What's the problem with me pursuing her? She is my wife, is she? Hua Sik-hen glanced at Shen Qingyu. Miss Shen, didn't you say you were going to divorce Mr. Gu? Shen Qingyu looked at Gu Lingxiao and said coldly, Gu Lingxiao, it's over between us. Who I choose is my own business. Gu Lingxiao's expression darkened further. Shen Qingyu, don't push me. Push you to do what? Shen Qingyu stood up. Gu Lingxiao, you were the one who betrayed our marriage first. You were the one who threatened me with my parents. Now that I've found a better option, what right do you have to stop me? Gu Lingxiao clenched his fists, veins bulging on the back of his hands. He had never imagined that a day would come when Shen Qingyu would completely slip from his control. Hua Sik-hen, I advise you not to meddle in other people's business. Gu Lingxiao turned to Hua Sik-hen. Otherwise, don't blame me for being impolite. Oh, really? Hua Sik-hen stood up slowly. Then I'd like to see just how you plan to be impolite with me. President Gu. The two men locked eyes, the air thick with tension. Watching this scene, Shen Qingyu felt a sudden surge of vengeful satisfaction in her heart. Let Gu Lingxiao have a taste of what it's like to lose something too. Chapter 7. The standoff between the two men lasted a long time, but in the end, it was Gu Lingxiao who backed down first. He knew that starting a fight here would benefit no one. Moreover, Hua Sichen's background was no less formidable than his own. If things really came to a head, he might not come out on top. Shen Qingyu, you'll regret this. With those final words, Gu Lingxiao turned and left with his men watching his retreating figure. Shen Qingyu was filled with complex emotions. She had to admit, seeing the look of defeat on Gu Lingxiao's face gave her a certain satisfaction, but at the same time, she knew this action meant she had burned all bridges with him. Don't worry, Hua Sik-hen seemed to sense her apprehension. Starting tomorrow, you'll be Mrs. Hua, I promise. No one will dare bully you again. The next morning, at the Civil Affairs Bureau, Shen Qingyu and Hua Sik-hen stood side by side before the service window, and the formalities proceeded smoothly. Congratulations to you both, may you grow old together in happiness. The clerk smiled as she handed over 2 red certificates. Holding the marriage certificate in her hand, Shen Qingyu felt a sense of unreality. Just 3 days ago, she was here filing for divorce from Gu Lingxiao, and now, 3 days later, she's married another man. Life is full of such dramatic turns. What's wrong? Having second thoughts, Hua Sik-hen noticed her distant look. No. Shen Qingyu shook her head. It's just, everything happens so fast. Opportunities can be fleeting. Hua Sik-hen said, putting away the marriage certificate. Let's go. We'll handle the matter with your parents' company. 1 hour later, outside the building of Shen Qingyu's parents' company, Hua Sichen's assistant had been waiting there for some time. Young Master Hua, the matter has been resolved, the assistant reported. We've communicated with the tax bureau. It was a malicious report. The seizure has been lifted, and the company can resume normal operations. Shen Qingyu let out a sigh of relief. Thank you. You're welcome. We're husband and wife now. It's what I should do, Hua Sik-hen said with a faint smile. Just then, Shen Qingyu's parents emerged from the company. Seeing her daughter, Mrs. Shen immediately hurried over. Qingyu, what on earth is going on? Why would someone report us? Mrs. Shen's face was full of worry. Mom, it's all taken care of, Shen Qingyu reassured her. Nothing like this will happen again, and this is, Mr. Shen noticed Hua Sik-hen. Mom. Dad, let me introduce you. Shen Qingyu took a deep breath. This is Hua Sik-hen, my husband. What? Mrs. Shen was shocked. But aren't you with Jingchen? Gu Lingxiao and I are divorced, Shen Qingyu explained simply, omitting some inconvenient details. Upon hearing their daughter's words, Mr. and Mrs. Shen fell silent. Though they didn't know the specifics, they could sense their daughter had been deeply wronged. Uncle, auntie, please rest assured and leave Qingyu to me, Hua Sik-hen said politely. I will take good care of her. Mr. Shen looked Hua Sik-hen up and down. Though he had his doubts, seeing the determination in his daughter's eyes, he finally gave a nod of approval. Meanwhile, in the CEO's office of the Gu Group, Gu Lingxiao was flying into a rage. What do you mean it's been called off? I was told the seizure was already in place. He roared into the phone. Mr. Gu, Xingshi Group applied pressure. There was nothing we could do, came the helpless reply from the other end of the line. Gu Lingxiao slammed the phone down with a vengeance. Hua Sikhen had moved faster than he anticipated. Overnight, he had dismantled the elaborate trap Gu had so carefully laid. Mr. Gu, there's another piece of bad news, the secretary said cautiously. Madam, I mean, Miss Shen and Hua Sikhen got their marriage certificate this morning. Gu Lingxiao's face instantly turned ashen. What did you say? The Civil Affairs Bureau confirmed it. They did indeed get their marriage license. Gu Lingxiao slammed his fist on the desk, sending the documents scattered across it flying everywhere. He never imagined Shen Qingyu would be so resolute. Not only did she divorce him, but she immediately married another man. What he found most unbearable was that the man turned out to be Hua Sikhen in the business world. Hua Sikhen is one of his biggest rivals. Now that Shen Qingyu has married Hua Sikhen, it's like his opponent has gained a powerful ally. Get me the legal department, Gu. Ling Xiao said coldly, I'm suing Qingyu Tech for stealing our trade secrets, but, Mr. Gu, if we do that, his secretary voiced her concern. No buts. Gu Lingxiao's eyes blazed with fury. If she wants to play games, I'll see her to the bitter end. But just as he was about to retaliate, his phone suddenly rang. The caller ID showed it was his father, Gu Mingshan. Dad, Lingxiao, come home immediately. I have something important to tell you. Gu Mingshan's voice was grave. What is it? It's about you and Shen Qingyu. Also, the head of the Hua family is here. He wants to see you. Gu Lingxiao's heart sank. Hua Tiancheng, the patriarch of the Hua family, was a living legend in the business world. For him to appear in person meant the situation was far more serious than Gu Lingxiao had imagined. An hour later, at the Gu family villa, Gu Lingxiao pushed open the door and entered the living room, where he saw his father, Gu Mingshan, having tea with a silver-haired old man. Though advanced in years, the old man was hale and hearty, his eyes still bright and piercing. This was Hua Tiancheng, the patriarch of the Hua family, grandfather Hua. Gu Lingxiao greeted politely. Lingxiao, have a seat. Hua Tiancheng gestured to the sofa beside him. Let's talk. After Gu Lingxiao sat down, Hua Tiancheng got straight to the point. I hear you've been giving my grandson's wife a hard time, grandfather Hua. This is a private matter. A private matter, Hua Tiancheng scoffed. You're using business tactics to crush a woman's family. And you call that a private matter? Gu Mingshan chimed in from the side. Lingxiao, I've heard what happened. What you did was truly out of line. Gu Lingxiao opened his mouth to defend himself, but under the pressure from the two senior business figures, he found himself at a loss for words. Grandpa Hua, I know I was wrong. He finally conceded, choosing to yield. Good that you recognize your mistake. Hua Tiancheng nodded. From today on, your feud with Qingyu is settled. If I hear you're giving her a hard time again, don't blame me for not being polite. Yes, and stay away from that woman. By swear, Hua Tiancheng's tone grew more severe. That kind of woman will only bring you trouble. After Hua Tiancheng left, Gu Mingshan looked at his son and spoke with deep feeling. Lingxiao, Qingyu is a good girl. I had high hopes for her when you married her. I never thought you would treat her this way. Dad, enough. Gu Mingshan waved his hand dismissively. What's done is done. There's no use talking about it anymore. You're on your own from here on out. After leaving his father's house, Gu Lingxiao sat in his car, his emotions in utter turmoil. It suddenly dawned on him that he had been making mistakes all these years. His neglect of Shen Qingyu, his infatuation with Bai Shuer, and his excessive pursuit of commercial gain had cost him many precious things. And now, it was all too late. Shen Qingyu no longer belonged to him, and her new status made her someone he could no longer afford to provoke. Just as he was lost in his troubled thoughts, someone knocked on the car window. He looked up and saw Shen Qingyu standing outside the car. Chapter 8, Get out of the car, we need to talk. Shen Qingyu's voice came through the car window, calm yet leaving no room for refusal. Gu Lingxiao hesitated for a moment, but ultimately opened the car door and stepped out. What do you want to talk about? He looked at the woman who was once his wife, a tumult of emotions swirling within him. It had only been a few days, but Shen Qingyu seemed like a different person. The gentle, placid woman was gone, replaced by someone sharp and formidable, radiating an aura that commanded respect. Follow me, Shen Qingyu said, turning and walking towards a nearby cafe. They sat down in a corner booth, and Shen Qingyu got straight to the point. Gu Lingxiao, let's end this. What do you mean, starting today? There is nothing left between us. Shen Qingyu took a document from her bag. This is the termination agreement for all our previous business collaborations. Once you sign it, we go our separate ways for good. Gu Lingxiao looked over the document and found the terms were very favorable to him. Shen Qingyu had voluntarily relinquished many of her rights, including even the 15% stake in the Gu Group. why are you doing this? He asked, somewhat perplexed. Because I don't want to have anything to do with you anymore. Shen Qingyu's voice was calm. Gu Lingxiao. That 15% stake was your wedding gift to me. Now that we're divorced, it's only natural I return it to you. But, no buts, Shen Qingyu cut him off. I may not be anyone important, but I still have my pride. I won't take what doesn't belong to me. Gu Lingxiao remained silent for a long time before finally picking up the pen and signing. Watching him sign, a wave of complex emotions welled up in Shen Qingyu's heart. 3 years of marriage, just like that, it's completely over. One more thing. Shen Qingyu said, putting away the documents. Regarding Bai Shuer, I hope you can handle it properly. What do you mean? She once sent me threatening texts, saying she'd make it impossible for me to survive in this city, Shen Qingyu said, taking out her phone. I've saved all these chat records, even though I have a new identity now and I'm not afraid of her threats. I don't want her to keep harassing me. Gu Lingxiao glanced at the chat logs, his expression darkening by Shuer's words. We're truly vicious, even bordering on personal threats. I'll handle it, he said with a nod. Good. Shen Qingyu stood up. Gu Lingxiao, I hope we can both move on to better things. Watching her walk away, Gu Lingxiao was suddenly seized by the urge to call her back, but in the end, he said nothing. Some mistakes, once made, can never be undone, and between him and Shen Qingyu, things could never go back to the way they were. Just as Shen Qingyu stepped out of the cafe, Hua Xichen's car pulled up. At the entrance, all finished, he asked, smiling at Shen Qingyu. Yes, it's completely over, Shen Qingyu said as she got into the car. What's next for us? First, we'll meet with a few clients. Then, there's a business gathering tonight where you'll need to attend as Mrs. Hua. Shen Qingyu nodded. I understand. She knew that from today onward, she would officially enter the Hua family's circle. Even though this was merely a marriage of convenience, she still had to play the part. Convincingly 8:00 p.m., Golden Sea Grand Hotel. A gathering of the city's business elite was underway here. With nearly every prominent figure in attendance, Shen Qingyu entered the banquet hall on Hua Xichen's arm, immediately drawing the attention of everyone present. Everyone, I'd like to introduce you. Hua Xichen picked up the microphone. This is my wife, Shen Qingyu. Wow. The entire banquet hall erupted in excitement. No one expected Hua Xichen to get married so suddenly, and to Gu Lingxiao's ex-wife of all people. Congratulations, President Hua, your wife is absolutely stunning. A constant stream of compliments filled the air, but Shen Qingyu merely responded with polite nods. Just then, Gu Lingxiao made his appearance. He entered the banquet hall alone, his expression somewhat somber. Seeing the intimate manner between Shen Qingyu and Hua Xichen, a flicker of pain passed through his eyes. President Gu, I didn't expect you to be here. Someone stepped forward to greet him. Gu Lingxiao responded perfunctorily, his gaze never leaving Shen Qingyu. Sensing his gaze, Shen Qingyu turned her head and glanced at him, only to quickly avert her eyes as if looking at a complete stranger. This feeling of being ignored was deeply unsettling for Gu Lingxiao. The Shen Qingyu of the past would always notice him first in any situation and be mindful of his feelings. Now, however, she seemed to look right through him. Qingyu, someone suddenly called out to Shen Qingyu. Shen Qingyu turned her head and saw a middle-aged woman in opulent attire approaching. This was Zhang Wanjun, a prominent socialite in the business world and also her senior from university. Sister Wanjun, Shen Qingyu greeted politely. I truly never expected you to marry Hua Xichen. Zhang Wanjun's tone was somewhat complex. The last time we met, you were still Mrs. Gu. Life is full of surprises, Shen Qingyu replied with a faint smile. Indeed, Zhang Wanjun glanced at Gu Lingxiao not far away. Mr. Gu is absolutely sick with regret now. I heard he's been so distraught these past few days he can't eat or sleep, and he's become a shadow of his former self. Shen Qingyu didn't respond, merely raising her glass to take a small, quiet sip. Qingyu, forgive me for asking, but, are you truly happy now? Zhang Wanjun lowered her voice to ask. The question caught Shen Qingyu off guard. Are you happy? It's hard to say. Her marriage to Hua Xichen felt more like a transaction. While he was always a gentleman and took good care of her, their relationship lacked any real emotional foundation. Sis, matters of the heart are never simple to explain, Shen Qingyu finally replied, sidestepping the question. True, Zhang Wanjun nodded, but regardless, your current choice is much better than before. Hua Xichen is a good man, far better than certain others. As she spoke, she deliberately glanced at Gu Lingxiao. Just then, a sudden commotion rippled through the banquet hall. All eyes turned toward the entrance, where Bai Shuer walked in, dressed in a red evening gown. Her pregnancy was clearly visible. She walked with one hand supporting her lower back, looking quite frail. Gu Lingxiao's face instantly darkened at the sight of her. What was Bai Shuer doing here? He had completely cut ties with her, so she shouldn't have been able to get into an event like this. Everyone, I'm sorry to interrupt, Bai Schwer said, picking up the microphone, her voice trembling slightly. I have something important to say. The entire banquet hall fell silent, and everyone looked at her with curiosity. I know many people here are familiar with me, and also aware of my relationship with Mr. Gu. Bai Schwer glanced at Gu Lingxiao. I came here today to clarify a few things. A sense of foreboding welled up in Gu Lingxiao's heart. He wanted to stop her, but it was already too late. The child I'm carrying is indeed not Mr. Gu's, Bai Schwer continued. However, it is true that Mr. Gu betrayed his marriage to be with me. Whoa, the entire banquet hall erupted once more while everyone had heard rumors about the relationship between Gu Lingxiao and Bai Schwer. Hearing the confirmation straight from the source was still incredibly shocking. Bai Schwer, have you lost your mind? Gu Lingxiao tried to step forward to stop her, but was held back by security. I'm not crazy. Tears welled up in Bai Schwer's eyes. Mr. Gu, you were the one who pursued me, who promised to divorce Shen Qingyu and marry me. Now that you found out the child isn't yours, you think you can just cast me aside. That's a lie, Gu Lingxiao roared, but Bai Schwer had already taken out her phone and played a recording. Gu Lingxiao's voice came through the recording clearly. Schwer, don't worry, I will definitely divorce Shen Qingyu, then we can be together openly. Everyone present was stunned upon hearing this recording. As for Shen Qingyu, hearing these words, she felt nothing but irony in her heart. Back then, Gu Lingxiao had consistently denied any relationship with Bai Schwer in front of her. Now, with the evidence irrefutable, his lies were completely exposed. President Gu, do you have anything further to explain? A reporter seized the opportunity to ask. Gu Lingxiao's face turned ashen, unable to utter a single word. Seeing his distress, a flicker of triumph flashed in Bai Schwer's eyes. Since Gu Lingxiao intended to abandon her, she would make sure he was utterly disgraced. Chapter 9. Bai Schwer's revelation sent shockwaves through the business world. The next day, major financial media outlets splashed the story across their front pages. Headlines like Gu Group President's marital affair, ex-wife marries business tycoon in whirlwind romance were everywhere. In Gu Lingxiao's office, he was holding an emergency meeting with his PR team. Mr. Gu, the stock price has already dropped 15%. The board is under immense pressure, the PR director said anxiously. We must control the narrative as soon as possible. How do we control this? Gu Lingxiao's voice was hoarse. Clearly having had a sleepless night, I suggest you hold a press conference, issue a formal apology, and commit to taking the appropriate responsibility. Apologize, Gu Lingxiao sneered. What do I have to apologize for, Mr. Gu? Now is not the time to argue about right and wrong, the PR director urged anxiously. If we don't handle this promptly, the company's losses will be even greater. Just then, the secretary hurried into the room. Mr. Gu, the board has called an emergency meeting. They require your immediate presence. Gu Lingxiao took a deep breath, straightened his tie, and walked out of his office. The atmosphere in the boardroom was unusually tense. The faces of the senior board members were grim, clearly displeased with last night's events. Lingxiao, you've let us down. The senior director, Gu Mingde, spoke up. He was Gu Lingxiao's uncle and one of the company's shareholders. Uncle, this is my private matter. Private matter? Gu Mingde was furious. Your private matter has affected the company's stock price and the interests of all shareholders. Can you still call that a private matter? The other directors also joined in the criticism. Lingxiao, if you continue down this path, you will destroy the Gu Group. We must consider the possibility of replacing the CEO. Upon hearing this, Gu Lingxiao's expression darkened. He knew the board had never been fully convinced by his youth. Now, with this incident, they finally had the perfect opportunity to challenge him. Everyone, I understand this matter has had a negative impact on the company. Gu Lingxiao stood up. I am willing to take responsibility, but please give me a chance to make it right. What kind of chance? I will resolve this crisis as soon as possible and get the company back on track. Gu Mingde shook his head. Lingxiao, you have lost our trust. I propose that Mingho take over as acting CEO. Gu Mingho is Gu Mingde's son and Gu Lingxiao's cousin. For years, he has been waiting for an opportunity to rise to the top. I object, Gu Lingxiao stated flatly. My father built this company from the ground up. I won't let anyone take it away. Then you'd better come up with a solution, Gu Mingde said coldly. Otherwise, we'll put it to a vote at the next board meeting. The meeting ended on a sour note. Back in his office, Gu Lingxiao was in the foulest of moods. It had never crossed his mind that his career could be jeopardized by matters of the heart. Just as he was at his wit's end, his phone rang. The caller ID showed Shen Qingyu. Hello, He answered immediately, Gu Lingxiao, let's meet. Shen Qingyu's voice was calm. Meet? Why? I have a way to help you out of your current predicament. Gu Lingxiao was taken aback. What do you mean? The cafe in Jinmao Tower. In half an hour. With that, Shen Qingyu hung up the phone. Half an hour later, Gu Lingxiao arrived at the cafe right on time. Shen Qingyu was already waiting for him there. And seated beside her was Hua Sikhen. What do you want? With me. Gu Lingxiao sat down opposite them, eyeing them warily. We want to help you. Shen Qingyu got straight to the point. The situation is very unfavorable for you right now, but we can help you resolve the crisis. Why would you help me? Gu Lingxiao was puzzled. Logically, you should be enjoying my misfortune, because it benefits us as well. Hua Sikhen took over the conversation. If the Gu group truly falls into crisis, the entire business world will be affected. Moreover, Qingyu doesn't want to see you completely fall. Gu Lingxiao looked at Shen Qingyu, a complex mix of emotions in his eyes. Do you still care about me? It's not about caring. Shen Qingyu shook her head. I just don't want to see the company old Master Gu worked so hard to build be destroyed by you. He's been good to me, and I don't want him to spend his later years in distress. Hearing this, a wave of bitterness welled up in Gu Lingxiao's heart. Shen Qingyu was willing to help him, not for his sake, but for his grandfather's. How do you plan to help me? He asked. It's quite simple, Hua Sikhen said, producing a document. Prosperity Group is willing to partner with Gu Corporation, investing 5 billion in RMB. With this positive news, the stock price will naturally recover. Gu Lingxiao looked over the document. It was indeed a very tempting proposal. What are your conditions? He knew there was no such thing as a free lunch. I want 20% of the Gu Group's shares, said Hua Sikhen. Impossible. Gu Lingxiao flatly refused. 20% would make you practically the largest shareholder. That's the market price. Hua Sikhen shrugged. If you don't agree, we won't press the matter. Gu Lingxiao fell into deep thought. 20% of the shares is a significant amount, but if it can resolve the current crisis, the price is worth paying. Moreover, given the current circumstances, he doesn't seem to have any other choice. I need to think about it, he finally said. Of course. Shen Qingyu stood up. But time is running out. As I understand it, the board vote is scheduled for tomorrow. Watching their retreating figures, Gu Lingxiao's emotions were in utter turmoil. His former wife was now resorting to this method to save him. Was this irony, or fate's design? That night, Gu Lingxiao sat alone in his office, turning the decision over and over in his mind. 20% of the shares meant he would lose absolute control of the company, but if he refused, he stood to lose even more. Just as he was hesitating, the office door swung open. Gu Minghe walked in, a smug smile on his face. Still working late, cousin? He settled onto the sofa. Are you ready for tomorrow's board meeting? What are you getting at? Gu Lingxiao asked coldly, his eyes fixed on him. As they say, a wise man knows when to yield. Gu Minghe lit a cigarette. Step down now, and you can still save some face. If you're voted out tomorrow, it'll be a disgrace. In your dreams, Gu Lingxiao flatly refused. Gu Corporation was left to me by my father. I won't hand it over to anyone. Is that so? Gu Minghe sneered. Then we'll see who's right tomorrow. He stood up to leave. Reaching the door, he turned back and said, Oh, by the way, several new board members will be joining the vote tomorrow. They're all friends of mine, and I'm confident they'll make the right choice. After Gu Minghe left, Gu Lingxiao's heart sank completely. It seems his cousin had been setting this up for a while. He was likely going to have a hard time getting through tomorrow's vote. With that thought, he picked up the phone and dialed Hua Sichen's number. Mr. Hua, regarding today's proposal, I accept. A laugh came from the other end of the line. A wise choice. Pleasure doing business. The board meeting proceeded as scheduled the next day. Just as the directors were about to cast their votes, Gu Lingxiao announced the partnership with Xingshi Group. Upon hearing the news of the 5 billion yuan investment, all the board members were stunned. Is this for real? Gu Mingde asked in disbelief. The contract is already signed. Gu Lingxiao produced the document. It will be announced publicly tomorrow. Gu Minghe's face fell. He hadn't anticipated that Gu Lingxiao still had such a trump card up his sleeve. But this requires relinquishing 20% of the shares, a board member interjected. This is for the long-term development of the company, Gu Lingxiao said. Moreover, the participation of Xingshi Group brings us nothing but benefits. After intense discussion, the board of directors ultimately approved the collaboration. The vote was cancelled, and Gu Lingxiao temporarily retained his position as president, but he knew this was only temporary. Hua Sikhen, holding 20% of the shares, had effectively become a major shareholder of the company. In a sense, he was no longer the absolute master of the Gu Group, and all of this was thanks to his ex-wife, Shen Qingyu. At this thought, a complex, indescribable feeling welled up in Gu Lingxiao's heart. Chapter 10. 3 months later, In the crisp and clear autumn season, the collaborative project between Gu Corporation and Xingshi Group was progressing smoothly, and the stock price had fully recovered. Gu Lingxiao's position as CEO was now secure, yet his mood had not improved because of it. At every board meeting, seeing Hua Siken sitting there would remind him of how he had ended up in his current position, step by step. What pained him even more was that Shen Qingyu's life now seemed genuinely happy. Her company, with Hua Sichen's support, had flourished and become a well-known enterprise in the industry. She herself frequently appeared at various business events, in her capacity as Mrs. Hua. Every time he encountered her on these occasions, Gu Lingxiao could sense the change in her. She had grown more confident and radiant. The poise she exuded from within was something her former self had never possessed. It made him think of Shen Qingyu from 3 years ago, right after they got married. She had been just as radiant back then, but had gradually dimmed within the marriage. Looking back now, it was all his fault. Mr. Gu, what are you thinking about? His secretary's voice pulled him from his thoughts. Nothing. Gu Lingxiao snapped back to attention. What's on the schedule for today? There's a product launch at 3 p.m. that you'll need to attend. Mr. and Mrs. Hua will also be there. Hearing the words Mr. and Mrs. Hua made Gu Lingxiao's heart sink a little further. That afternoon, at the product launch venue, this was a launch for an AI product, and the attendees were all industry elites. The moment Gu Lingxiao entered the venue, he spotted a familiar figure. Shen Qingyu, dressed in a beige business suit and holding on to Hua Sichen's arm, was conversing with other guests. A faint, elegant smile graced her face. Sensing someone's gaze upon her, Shen Qingyu turned her head. Their eyes met and held for a few seconds in the air before Shen Qingyu naturally averted her gaze. Being treated like a stranger left Gu Lingxiao with a deep sense of discomfort. The press conference proceeded smoothly, but Gu Lingxiao was distracted. His attention remained fixed on Shen Qingyu, observing her every move. He noticed that Shen Qingyu and Hua Siken interacted with a natural ease now, sharing a that made them seem like a genuine married couple. A pang of jealousy surged within him after the press conference concluded. It was time for the cocktail reception. Gu Lingxiao stood alone in the corner, holding a glass. Mr. Gu, all by yourself? A voice suddenly spoke from behind him. He turned around and saw that it was Shen Qingyu. Is something the matter? He tried to keep his tone calm. Nothing much, just came over to say hello. Shen Qingyu also held a wine glass. I heard you've been doing well lately. It's all right. Gu Lingxiao gave a bitter smile. Compared to the glory of Mrs. Hua, my little achievements are nothing. Upon hearing the title Mrs. Hua, a flicker of complex emotion passed through Shen Qingyu's eyes. Gu Lingxiao, we're divorced, she reminded him. You don't need to speak to me in that bitter tone. Bitter. Gu Lingxiao laughed at himself. Perhaps, I admit, seeing your life now, I really am envious. Envious of what? Envious that you can forget the past so quickly and start a new life. Gu Lingxiao looked at her. While I'm still stuck there. Shen Qingyu was taken aback, not expecting him to say something like that. Gu Lingxiao, let the past be the past, she urged. You should start a new life too. A new life. Gu Lingxiao shook his head. Qingyu, do you know, for the past 3 months, I've regretted it every single day. I regret not cherishing you back then, regret making those foolish mistakes. Enough. Shen Qingyu cut him off. Gu Lingxiao, you should save those words for some other woman. I don't want to say this to any other woman. Gu Lingxiao's voice was charged with emotion. Qingyu, I want to tell you. You want to tell her what? Suddenly, Hua Sishen appeared beside them. Brother Lingxiao, what are you discussing with my wife so intently? Although Hua Sishen's tone was calm, Gu Lingxiao could sense the underlying warning in it. It's nothing, just small talk. Gu Lingxiao forced down the words in his heart. I should be going. Watching his retreating figure, Shen Qingyu felt a complex mix of emotions. What did he just say? Hua Siken asked. Nothing important. Shen Qingyu shook her head. Just some things from the past. Hua Siken gave her a long, searching look, but didn't press the matter further. But he was already on his guard. From Gu Lingxiao's expression just now, it was clear he still had feelings for Shen Qingyu. And although Shen Qingyu appeared calm on the surface, the flicker in her eyes betrayed her inner turmoil. This made Hua Siken realize their marriage might be facing a new challenge. That evening, at the Hua family villa, Shen Qingyu sat by the window, quietly gazing at the night view outside. What's on your mind? Hua Siken walked over and sat down beside her. Nothing. Shen Qingyu shook her head. I was just thinking today's launch event was a great success. Qingyu, Hua Siken suddenly called out to her. We need to talk. What about? About Gu Lingxiao, Hua Sishen said directly. I can tell he still has feelings for you. Shen Qingyu was silent for a moment before finally nodding. Maybe, but so what? We're already divorced. What about you? Hua Sishen looked at her. Do you still have feelings for him? This question plunged Shen Qingyu into deep thought. To say there were no feelings at all would be a lie. After all, they were husband and wife for 3 years. How could one simply forget? But the woman she was now was no longer the girl from 3 years ago, willing to compromise everything for the sake of love. See Shen, our agreement was for 3 years. She avoided a direct answer, instead bringing up the terms of their marital arrangement. I know, Hua Sikhen nodded, but Qingyu, these 3 months together have made me feel differently about you. Shen Qingyu turned her head to look at him, a question in her eyes. What I'm trying to say is, perhaps we could try to make this marriage real, Hua Sikhen said earnestly, that is, if you're willing. The proposal took Shen Qingyu completely by surprise. She hadn't expected Hua Sikhen to have such thoughts. Sikhen, between us, I know there's no grand, passionate love between us, Hua Sikhen interrupted her, but we have an understanding, shared goals, and similar values. Maybe that's enough. Shen Qingyu looked at him, a tumult of emotions swirling in her heart. Hua Sikhen was right, there really was a tacit understanding between them. These 3 months together had given her a sense of peace and security she had never felt before. There was no suspicion, no betrayal, none of those exhausting, soul-draining arguments. Perhaps this was the life she had always wanted. I need some time to think, she finally said. Of course, Hua Sikhen smiled gently. I'll wait for your answer. Just then, Shen Qingyu's phone suddenly rang. Seeing the caller ID, she frowned. It was Gu Lingxiao. What could he possibly want, calling at this hour? Hua Sikhen also noticed. Shen Qingyu hesitated for a moment before finally answering the call. Hello, Qingyu, it's me. Gu Lingxiao's voice sounded urgent. I have something very important to tell you. What is it? It's about Bai Shuer. Something's happened to her. Shen Qingyu was taken aback. What do you mean? She's dead. Gu Lingxiao's voice was heavy. I just got a call from the police. She took her own life at home. The news left Shen Qingyu speechless with shock. And, Gu Lingxiao continued, she left a suicide note. It mentioned you, mentioned me. Shen Qingyu's heart skipped a beat. What did it say? The note said all her previous accusations were false. She was never with me. The recordings and photos were all fabricated by her. Hearing this, Shen Qingyu was completely stunned. If what Bai Shuer said was true, then had all her accusations and resentment towards Gu Lingxiao over the past 3 months been misplaced? Qingyu, let's meet. Gu Lingxiao's voice held a note of pleading. There are some things I need to explain to you in person. Shen Qingyu glanced at Hua Sikhen beside her, wrestling with her thoughts for a long time. In the end, she nodded. All right, let's meet and talk. After hanging up the phone, Hua Sikhen's expression grew complicated. Are you really going to see him? Sikhen, if what Bai Shuer said is true, Shen Qingyu's voice trembled slightly, then have I been too cruel to him these past 3 months? Hua Sikhen was silent for a long time before finally giving a slow nod. Go ahead, but Qingyu, no matter what the truth is, I want you to remember one thing. What is it? Some mistakes, even with reasons, don't erase the fact that they caused harm. Hua Sikhen looked at her intently. The choice is yours, but please think it over carefully. Gazing into Hua Sikhen's eyes, Shen Qingyu felt even more conflicted. On one side was her possibly wronged ex-husband, on the other, her current husband who genuinely wanted to start anew with her. How should she choose? The end.